A poor janitor entered the wrong elevator. The billionaire CEO gasps when she saw him. The polished elevator doors slid open on the 45th floor with barely a whisper. Dominic Sawyer stood frozen inside, one hand gripping his mop handle, the other steadying a bucket of dirty water. His faded gray uniform hung loose on his thin frame, stained with years of invisible labor. But it wasn't his uniform that made him stop. It was the woman standing outside. Veronica Sterling, billionaire CEO of Sterling Luxury Enterprises, stared at the janitor as if she'd seen a ghost. Her phone slipped from her trembling fingers and shattered against the marble floor. Her perfectly composed face, the one that had graced magazine covers and commanded boardrooms, crumbled in an instant. "Dominic?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Is that you?" He didn't recognize her at first. 15th years had turned the woman he once loved into someone untouchable, unreachable. But when their eyes met, something ancient and painful passed between them. "Wrong floor," he said quietly, reaching for the button. "Sorry, Miss Sterling." What happened next would expose a lie that destroyed 2 lives 15 years ago. But before we reveal the truth that's been buried for over a decade, if you believe that justice always finds its way to the surface, please hit that subscribe button right now. Comment below what country you're watching from, and like, because what happens in the next 8 minutes will restore your faith in second chances. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare truly began. Dominic Sawyer was 42 years old and completely invisible. Every night at exactly 10 p.m., he clocked into Apex Financial Tower as a janitor. For 3 years, he'd cleaned 50 floors, emptied trash from 200 offices, and polished marble lobbies until they gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Nobody spoke to him. Nobody looked at him. And that's exactly how he wanted it. He returned each morning to a basement apartment barely big enough for a donated couch and a mattress on the floor. $800 a month. Every penny mattered. But despite the poverty, Dominic kept his small space immaculate, organized, dignified, clean. On one wall hung something that didn't belong. A framed engineering degree from 15 years ago. Dust had settled on the glass. Next to it, face down on a corner shelf, sat a photograph he couldn't bear to look at anymore. His neighbor once asked him, "Why does a man with an engineering degree clean toilets for minimum wage?" Dominic's answer was always the same. "Everyone has a past. Mine just caught up faster than most." But Dominic wasn't running from what he'd done. He was running from what had been done to him. 45 floors above where Dominic mopped, Veronica Sterling ruled an empire. At 40 years old, she was worth $2.3 billion. Her luxury fashion and real estate company had offices in 12 countries. Forbes called her a genius. Time called her an inspiration. She gave motivational speeches about overcoming betrayal and building success from nothing. Her most famous quote, "I built this empire from nothing after someone stole everything from me." Millions of women looked up to her. But every empire has a foundation, and some foundations are built on lies. Late at night, when her employees went home, Veronica would sit alone in her corner office overlooking the glittering city. She'd unlock her desk drawer and stare at an old photograph. 2 young people, smiling in love, believing the future was theirs. Security footage showed her crying on those nights. There was something else unusual about Veronica Sterling. For 3 years, she'd never taken her private elevator after 6 p.m. Her assistant thought she was germophobic, afraid of coming into contact with the cleaning staff. The truth was far worse. Veronica knew exactly who cleaned her building. She'd known for 3 years, and every single night she prayed he would never look her in the eye. Because she knew if he did, the lie she'd built her empire on would finally collapse. If you're already hooked by this story, do me a favor. Share this video with one person who needs to hear it. Trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. 15 years earlier, Dominic Sawyer had been a 27-year-old engineering prodigy working at Sterling Tech. Veronica had been the VP of operations, the brilliant daughter being groomed to inherit her father's company. They fell in love in secret. Her father didn't approve. Dominic wasn't wealthy, wasn't connected, wasn't their kind of people. But Veronica promised him, "I don't care what my father thinks. I choose you, always." They planned to elope in 3 months, Everything changed 2 weeks before the wedding. Dominic was arrested at work, handcuffed in front of the entire office. The charges? Embezzling $2 million from Sterling Tech. The evidence seemed ironclad: offshore bank accounts in his name, falsified reports, forged signatures. "This is impossible!" Dominic had shouted as they dragged him away. "I didn't do this." But the worst betrayal came during the trial. Veronica took the witness stand and testified against him. Under oath, she said, "He manipulated me to steal company secrets. I was just a pawn in his scheme." The jury convicted him. 8 years in prison, his engineering license revoked, his family disowned him, his future destroyed. In prison, Dominic received only one letter from Veronica. It said, "I'm sorry I had to do this. You'll understand one day. V." He never understood, and eventually he stopped trying. What Dominic didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Veronica's father had fabricated every piece of evidence, and he'd given his daughter an ultimatum 24 hours before the trial. "Testify against him, or I'll make sure he gets 20 years instead of 8. Veronica had chosen to break Dominic's heart to save his life, but the letter she actually wrote him never arrived. Her father intercepted it and sent a different one. For 15 years, both of them believed the other had betrayed them. On a Friday night, everything changed. Dominic finished cleaning the 44th floor early. The regular service elevator was broken. His manager's voice crackled over the radio. "Use the executive elevator tonight, just this once. Building's empty anyway." Dominic hesitated. That elevator went straight to the 45th floor, Veronica's floor. But the manager insisted. "CEO left hours ago. You're fine." Dominic wheeled his mop bucket into the luxury elevator and pressed 45. The doors closed. The elevator rose smoothly. He put his headphones on and closed his eyes, exhausted. Then the elevator suddenly stopped. The doors opened, and there she stood. Veronica Sterling, working late for the first time in 3 years, stared at the janitor in her elevator. Recognition hit her like a freight train. The phone slipped from her hands. Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Dominic?" she whispered. He looked up slowly. 15 years had changed him, graying hair, deeper lines around his eyes, 40 pounds heavier. But it was him. He didn't recognize her at first, then it clicked. "Wrong floor," he said, voice flat and emotionless. "Sorry, Miss Sterling." He reached for the button to close the doors. "Dominic, wait. You don't get to say my name anymore." Then the elevator malfunctioned. The doors froze open. The automated system announced, "Maintenance required. Estimated wait time, 45 minutes." They were trapped. 15 years of silence, and nowhere to run. Okay, pause for just a second. If you want to know what happens next, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this confrontation is about to reveal a truth that changes everything. For 5 agonizing minutes, neither of them spoke. Veronica collapsed against the elevator frame, sobbing. "All of it. None of it was real. My father fabricated everything, the evidence, the accounts, all of it." Dominic finally looked at her. His expression was unreadable. "You think I didn't know?" he said quietly. "I've known the truth for 9 years." "Then why didn't you expose him?" Veronica whispered. "You could have cleared your name." "Because I loved you. My father died 2 years ago. I can fix this now. I can give you everything back, the money, the patent, your name. You can't give me back my 20s. Dominic said, "You can't bring back my mother, who died thinking I was a criminal." "Some things don't get fixed, Veronica." "Then what do you want from me?" she begged. Dominic reached into his uniform pocket and pulled out a worn, folded letter, the one she'd supposedly sent him 15 years ago. "I want to know what this meant. You'll understand one day, because I never did." Veronica's eyes widened. Slowly, she reached into her blazer and pulled out an identical envelope, just as worn, just as carefully preserved. "That's not the letter I wrote you," she whispered. "This is." She handed it to him. Dominic unfolded it with shaking hands and read. Dominic's hands trembled. Tears he'd held back for 15 years finally fell, something he thought had died in prison. Hope. I need time, he finally said. I'll wait, Veronica replied immediately. I'm good at waiting. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Opens at 6 a.m. If you're there tomorrow, we'll talk. The next morning at 5:58 a.m., Veronica sat in a corner booth at the diner. She'd ordered 2 coffees at 6:02 a.m. Dominic Sawyer walked in. He wore a simple button-down shirt and carried a folder under his arm. He sat down across from her. Then Dominic slid the folder across the table. Inside was his evidence and hers combined. I think we both got played, he said quietly. Veronica reached across the table. Her hand hovered just above his. Dominic looked at her hand, then into her eyes. Slowly, carefully, he placed his hand over hers. Dominic and Veronica lost 15 years to lies, fear, and cruelty. But they found truth. Do you believe in second chances? Dominic and Veronica do, and today they're rebuilding what was stolen together.